Welcome back to the lost Tactician. Imagine, if you will, a city under siege, buildings reduced to dust within minutes, yet from that very destruction a shield emerges. How did ordinary people facing unimaginable terror in World War II turn rubble into life-saving anti-ballistic walls? This isn't just about survival, it's about radical ingenuity that literally built hope from the ashes. Before 1939, war happened on distant battlefields, but the Blitz changed everything. When the Luftwaffe turned its attention to British cities, safety evaporated into acrid smoke. The threat came from above, fast, indiscriminate, devastating. German bombers dropped high-explosive ordnance that transformed city blocks into apocalyptic wastelands. Then came the V-1 flying bombs and V-2 rockets, arriving faster than sound itself, giving defenders no warning. Artillery shells screamed across battlefronts, fragmenting into razor-sharp shrapnel that killed as efficiently as the blast itself. Traditional defenses became obsolete. Brick walls crumbled like sand. Glass windows transformed into weapons. Underground shelters required resources most people didn't have. The critical question emerged with limited materials and bombardment that could come at any moment. How do you create a barrier that might save your life? What began as clearing debris quickly evolved into calculated defense. People realized the rubble surrounding their homes possessed protective properties. Crushed brick, fragmented concrete, pulverized mortar, all abundant and free. They simply needed the knowledge to weaponize it. The sandbag became the weapon of choice. Simple burlap bags stuffed with sand or soil, stacked methodically to form protective barriers around homes, factories, and critical infrastructure. A sandbag weighs perhaps 50 pounds. Stack them 10 high, 20 high, and suddenly you have a wall that absorbs fragmentation energy through sheer density and material give. Unlike concrete, which shatters and creates secondary projectiles, sand yields. It stops fragments by surrendering to momentum, dissipating energy through the medium itself. Salvaged materials from destroyed buildings were repurposed with remarkable ingenuity. Rubble was sorted, organic matter removed, densest fragments retained and stacked within wooden frameworks. Steel sheeting, when available, was corrugated and angled to deflect blast waves. Books from damaged libraries were stacked in layers. Their combined density and paper absorption properties provided genuine protection. Mattresses layered with soil created surprisingly effective blast barriers. Every material had properties, every property had applications. Communities pooled resources and ingenuity. Families worked together in human chains, passing sandbags, reinforcing shelters, building walls around shared buildings. What emerged wasn't merely physical protection, it was a visible manifestation of collective determination to survive. The Anderson shelter, that iconic corrugated steel refuge, represented official defense. But civilians quickly improved it, reinforcing with sandbags, rubble, and earth piled on top, creating graduated layers of protection. The humble Anderson became a fortress through improvisation. Factory roofs were ringed with sandbag fortifications arranged in deliberate patterns, angled surfaces deflecting shrapnel trajectories, overlapping arrangements eliminating gaps. Workers understood intuitively what military engineers knew from calculation, that angle of impact, material density, and energy absorption capacity determined whether fragmentation would penetrate or be stopped. Blast walls around munitions factories and power stations showcased greater sophistication, designed by workers and soldiers who understood their specific environment and threat profile. A wall facing likely bombing vectors differed from others. Walls around fuel storage required different construction than administrative buildings. Design principles weren't articulated in technical language, but were fundamentally sound sloped surfaces, angled shrapnel upward. Layering of different materials created graduated defense and, well, strategic gaps allowed blast pressure to dissipate rather than concentrate. Perhaps most remarkably, these systems were built by people facing the threat. A factory worker understood vulnerable sides of his workplace better than any general. A mother reinforcing her family's shelter possessed motivation no regulation could enforce. This collaborative effort transformed frightened people into communities bound by shared purpose and survival. These makeshift walls offered more than physical protection. They offered profound comfort of agency in a situation designed to render people helpless. In the face of bombers appearing with no warning, of explosions erasing homes in an instant, the ability to build something to improve odds, however marginally, was transformative. The walls became visible symbols of defiance. Photographs show these barriers everywhere. Sandbags around storefronts, blast walls protecting civil defense centers, reinforced shelters emerging from gardens and basements. The sheer ubiquity communicated a powerful message. We will not await our fate passively. We will shape our own survival. The rubble symbolizing destruction was repurposed into symbols of hope. The very material the enemy rained down became the instrument of defense. There was profound authenticity in this transformation, not propaganda poetry, but the genuine poetry of survival itself. This represented human resilience distilled into tangible form, the refusal to be defeated by circumstance, the insistence on reclaiming agency from chaos. The story of World War II's makeshift defenses extends far beyond history. In modern urban warfare, in natural disasters, where infrastructure has collapsed and communities must rely on available resources, the lessons echo clearly. Contemporary military engineers recognize what civilians in 1940s Britain discovered through desperation. Improvised defenses constructed with available materials can provide meaningful protection. Recent conflicts demonstrate identical patterns. Communities using rubble, earth, and salvaged materials creating protective barriers. When disaster strikes and formal infrastructure fails, the ability to rapidly improvise defenses becomes, well, absolutely critical. This knowledge transcends any particular era or conflict. The deeper lesson concerns human capacity itself, what ordinary people accomplish when survival depends upon innovation. Greatest innovations often emerge not from those with unlimited resources, but from those facing a stark choice between adaptation and defeat. The sandbag artfully stacked is expression of this principle. The rubble wall carefully constructed is its monument. 80 years have passed since families huddled behind barriers built from their own destroyed homes. Yet the testament remains. When faced with the impossible, humans do not despair. They rebuild. They innovate. They transform instruments of destruction into tools of survival. The stories of those who built these walls, who stacked sandbags through the night, who refused helplessness, these are stories that define us. They remind us that survival is active resistance, not passive acceptance. That resilience means transforming the instruments of suffering into weapons of perseverance. If you found this compelling, like, subscribe, and share this video. The lost tactician has many more forgotten lessons to unearth. Every story of human survival is a story of human triumph. Let's ensure they're not forgotten.